and welcome to Meet the Patient, brought to you by A Life in a Day. As part of our ongoing commitment to enable people working in the healthcare sector to increase their understanding, empathy and patient focus, we're conducting a series of interviews and asking people living with a condition or a disease to go beyond the clinical and share their personal stories to demonstrate the impact it's had on their relationships, family, friendships, work and their emotional well-being. Today our focus is on multiple myeloma, and I'm really happy to introduce everybody to Adrian Addison. Hello, Adrian.
Hello, Beverly.
So you worked with my colleague Chiara some time ago now when we were creating the A Life in a Day multiple myeloma experience, but I haven't met you before today. So yeah. I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to speak to you also.
Good to meet you too. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'd like to begin by asking Adrian, what do you think is the one thing that people need to be most aware of when they think about multiple myeloma?
I think from my point of view, it's a roller coaster. So it's a physical and an emotional roller coaster. From the first diagnosis where you're not sure what's going on. I remember in the back of my head as I was first talking to my doctor, I had Nat King Cole whispering there may be trouble ahead. Through the testing and the diagnosis and then the treatment, which it just rushes you along like a train and it's up and down. And you don't get a lot of chance to really process what's happening. You're just going along, doing what you have to do, and that's your day and your week and your month and a good part of a year, really, the first treatment and the recovery from it. And then everything's fine, you think, for a bit. So you reach a plateau or a remission stage, hopefully, where your blood counts are almost back to normal and you're doing fine. And you go along like that for a bit. And then blood counts start changing again. The remission may last some time, several years. So certainly my first one was just about 4 years. And then your blood counts start changing. You have to start seeing your doctor more regularly, and you're back on that roller coaster, and then you're rushing through another round of treatment. And because it is a remitting, relapsing disease, this is going to go on, and you know that. So there are times when life is almost normal and you're trying to get on with normal things, and other times where myeloma just completely takes over and you have no room for anything else. And these ups and downs can be quite difficult to deal with. They do bring on, I think, some changes in attitude. And potentially some changes in mood that other people can find a little bit difficult to understand or to deal with.
And you mentioned other people's reactions and their dealing with your condition. How has your diagnosis and treatments and this roller coaster impacted on your family?
I think that we must not underestimate the effect of what this disease has on the people around the person who's had the diagnosis. Difficult bit, you've got to do the treatment and everything else, but I argue with that quite forcefully. I think that from a patient's point of view, yes, we have all of the appointments and the treatments and the feeling bad and the losing the hair and all of these things happen, but they happen at a time when you're not feeling great. And when you're not feeling great, particularly if you're having a really bad day, you just go to sleep and the time passes and you get better. I think discussing with some of my peers in the support group that I go to, and with members of my family, I think that they've really got the difficult bit to do, because they're watching somebody they care about do something that's really quite difficult, but they're watching it in a state of mind where they're bright and alert. And I really think that if I had to watch my wife go through some of the things that I did, I would really struggle to cope with it. So I think that my wife has been an absolute rock. She's done a really good job. Um, and I remember on my first relapse when we sat with the doctor and we looked at the results of the PET scan, and my doctor said, yeah, we need to get you into treatment really quite quickly now. Julie's response was much more animated than my own. I was just like, oh well, we've got to do this stuff. And then I looked at Julie and saw the effect that it was having on her, and I thought, I need to look after her. It's yeah. So we must not underestimate the effect on that. I think Julie, being very close, sees most of it. She probably gets the worst of it, particularly when I'm moody or I just want to be left alone or tired. Other members of the family, I hide it quite a lot. So if I'm having an off day, I just say, I'm not coming today, or something along that line. I don't just go there when I'm having a bad day. So I don't talk about it very much. I hide the physical aspect of it so that they're not exposed to it as deeply.
It's something, isn't it? It's such a blessing to have a strong person like Julie in your life to be with you, but it does bring some element of guilt and feeling
Mm,
responsible for bringing that into her life as well, I
mm.
suppose, doesn't it?
Yes, that's right. And you talk about guilt there. I don't feel guilty really for imposing this on Julie, but I do feel that I should be able to do more to protect her from it or to help her deal with it. Um, something that I've not really mentioned is I find other people's reaction when you say, "Oh, I've got myeloma," and then because it's a difficult thing to describe, is it? It's a blood or a bone marrow cancer or something like that. And as soon as they hear that word cancer, there's a change in attitude. There's the, oh, I'm so sorry for you, and the look on their face, and it makes me think, do you know what? I'm not dead yet, and it's not your fault. So please don't be like that. It's just a thing that I deal with. It's part of my life, and we carry on. Um, what I do find even more difficult to deal with is very often when somebody hears that word, they then immediately follow with a horror story. Oh, I knew somebody that was a bit like that, and then this happened, and I don't want to hear that. I've got a pretty good idea of what's coming already. I don't need really to share that experience. It's not helpful. So things like that can be quite difficult to cope with, and trying to be relaxed and calm and friendly when you're getting that, I really find can be quite difficult at times.
You mentioned that Julie sees it all, but some
Mhm.
people you hide it from. So you might decline an invitation, or you're not feeling well, and you'll just say, I'm not gonna join you with for
Mm.
that." How has that impacted on your friendships and your social life? How have people responded to that? Are they understanding? Do they sort of withdraw? What's it been like for you?
Generally, it's not a problem because it's not something that's really happening right now, at least on a daily, weekly, or even monthly basis. I think those that are closer to me, they understand that there are difficult times, and we just call it an I'm having an off day, or a no day. I'm gonna do no gardening, no DIY, no family barbecues. I'm just and they're very understanding with that. And again, people that I work with that know me well are again really quite understanding that there are times when I just can't engage with things, so that they're accepting of that. It's it's not like I'm pushing people away, and they don't see it as such. It is very much that I'm just accepting that today is not a great day.
It's not about you pushing people away, but it's just about your own boundaries and being able to communicate that with people. It's a no
Mm,
day. It's a I just need to look after me today, and it's such a good thing that people understand that
mm.
and are understanding and supportive of that, because that's what you
And
need, isn't it? You need no pressure, no guilt. You need your no days, you need your rest days.
yes, and I think that if I do say, sorry, today is not a great day, we'll do it another time, I think my absence is less disruptive to something that's going on than if I am there and I am feeling bad and it's obvious that I'm really not wanting to be there. And to me, that almost seems rude. I'm sitting in a corner. I just want to go to bed. And I'd rather not do that. I'd rather not be there than be there and be disruptive. And yeah, I get a fair bit of understanding with that.
Do you mind telling us
Mhm.
what you do for your in your career, and how your diagnosis can impact on your work?
So I'm an engineer, a mechanical and manufacturing engineer. And I say it's not something I do. It is a big part of who I am. So it's a vocation. It's not a job. So even when I'm at home and doing my hobbies, I'm behaving like an engineer. I have an analytical mind. The first time through treatment, there's issues like fatigue, and there's also some reduction in cognitive function that comes with fatigue, so concentration span, attention to detail, things like that. Um, as a professional engineer, they can be quite difficult to cope with, and I dealt with that by limiting time actually in the workplace and doing what needed to be done when I was feeling good and not when the clock said I ought to be doing it. There were times when I had to have an extended period of time off. So after a stem cell transplant, and again, that really emotionally hurt me because there was a big part of my identity was like parked in a corner and not being used. And I do remember saying to somebody, even if I'm not doing a particularly good job, I need to be doing something. Um, and I was lucky that I was given some opportunity to do that. But with hindsight and talking to the people who were around me at the time, I realised that I went back to work far too early, and that I thought I was doing okay at the time, and I was doing a good job. And the reality was I really wasn't performing as well as I thought I did. Um, which again is, I appreciate the efforts people made to help me because it was part of my recovery process to get back to being who I was. But my recovery period was longer than I thought it was. The second time around was with a different employer, and from pretty much the day I went into treatment, they said, "Go home, stay home, come back when you've recovered." And from the employer's point of view, that's a really kind and really generous thing to do. They say, "We'll pay you, it's fine, don't worry about it." But again, from the emotional point of view, from my point of view, this isn't just a job. It's my vocation. It's part of my identity, and they'd taken that away from me. And I had to find something else, which scratched that itch, if you like. Um, but I also found that perhaps some of my value structure was changing, and that particularly after my second round of treatment, my second stem cell transplant, I started to think about where the value was in what I was doing, and was it valuable to me, and was I doing things just because other people expected it from me, or was it because I really wanted to do these things? And I did do some reassessment, and actually came to the conclusion that a lot of stuff I was doing was because other people were expecting it, and not because it was what I really wanted to do or what brought me value or satisfaction. And I started thinking about that, and it did lead to quite a big change in my life and my career. So I did decide to actually stop being a full-time professional research engineer and to actually say I'm going to spend more time doing things that I enjoy. So being around the home, being around family, young granddaughters and things like that. We had a great deal of pleasure interacting with them, shall we say, teaching them all the things that make a parent go like this. That's my function in life, and I really enjoy that.
And you touched ever so slightly on the emotional impact, or with that perfect storm and the years of the emotional impact. Could you tell me more about that? What has the emotional impact of this been?
Diagnosed in 2012, and then if we say a round of treatment for myeloma takes just over a year, it's about that, plus a little bit more for some recovery time. And then you have a period of remission, where life is good. You're not having to go see the doctor every week or every day. So my first remission was just shy of 4 years, which is pretty good. And in that time, it's almost like you can forget about it, but not quite, because you still have to have at least a quarterly, and I've actually got my doctor to admit to 4 monthly now, reviews of blood tests and things like that. So you can almost put it in a box and park it and forget about it almost. But then on that 3 monthly cycle, you start to think, is this the time when my bloods are going to start going iffy again? And there's a bit of stress and a bit of anxiety. And then it's all fine. So you go, oh, that's all right. Then we can put it away for another 3 months. And then the same thing happens. And that goes on. Until the time when your bloods do start going a bit screwy, and okay, we'll give it another month, and then perhaps another month. Yeah, we've got to do something now. And then you get the scan that tells you how far it's spread through this time, and then you're back into treatment. And the second round of treatment, the second stem cell transplant, again, just over a year and 2 months, all counted before I was really ready back to work full time properly. But the treatment is always evolving, it's changing. And the difference between the first and the second round was that once into remission, the recommendation was to carry on with the maintenance treatment, which is a lower dose of one of the chemotherapy drugs. And that made it much harder for me to park it and forget about it for 3 months, because it's like there's this daily reminder, I've got to take this pill every day, and that's a reminder of this thing. So I found that really difficult to cope with. There were some cumulative side effects of the pills as well. So I started getting rashes, and fatigue was getting worse. But really, it was an emotional fatigue. Oh, I've got to take this damn pill again, and I didn't need that daily reminder. It's like I want to get myeloma's claws out of me for a bit and forget about it. And even though the recommendation is to continue with this maintenance treatment until you relapse again, after a couple of years, I just said, I can't do this anymore. The effect that this daily reminder is having on me is too much. It's affecting my mood too much. I need to be able to park this, to put it away and forget about it for at least a couple of months or even a couple of weeks. And I'm not being allowed to do that. So again, the benefit of the pills over the longer term against the benefit of actually feeling good about myself, the pills didn't stack up. So we agreed to stop that, on the understanding that my next relapse might actually come earlier, just because I couldn't cope with the emotional impact of taking this pill every day.
how do people react to your decision? I mean, it sounds completely logical to me, and I truly understand your decision in that. But how did other people react to that? Because I think people underestimate that daily reminder. They underestimate how difficult it is to take a pill every day. So what was their reactions?
There's two different reactions. I think the first is, well, if they're saying you should have a pill and it's going to make things better for longer, you should take the pill. You should take the pill. And I think there's two attitudes which, again, through my peer group, through my support group, and through other activities that I've been having around myeloma, we do tend to diverge into two mindsets, which is the life at any cost and the quality of life. And I really go into I would rather have a shorter time of good quality than a longer time of just not being good, not feeling good about myself. And that goes right down into the treatments and the longer term things that I have as well. So when I explain to people, well, I'd rather have a couple of years of really good time than 5 years just feeling crappy every day, they start to understand. But it's very difficult to explain that I want quality to somebody whose total drive is quantity. And I can't understand, or I find it difficult to understand the other viewpoint as well. So we tend to end up accepting we have different viewpoints and not really understanding it. So I have had somebody quite close to me saying, I think you should do this, and being, yeah, you're quite forceful, quite strong in that opinion. And it's difficult to, because it almost starts making me angry, because, and that's also something that I recognize as a longer term effect of myeloma and the treatments that I've had, and perhaps the emotional and physical fatigue that I suffer, is that I can sometimes be quite moody, and I can occasionally slap into flaming anger, just like this, and I hear what you're saying, and you can think whatever you like, but I'm doing this because it's me, and if you want to do it, that's fine, but you're not in this situation. So we have to, and again, I almost have to take a breath, take a step back, let it go, and then say, this is what I'm doing, and I've thought about all of these, and I respect your position, but this is what I'm doing. But yeah, sometimes it can be, it just makes me angry. And I find that quite difficult to cope with, because in general I'm quite a relaxed person. Yeah, I mean, how can it be? It's just a pill. Yeah, but it isn't just a pill.
No.
What was the film? The Total Recall. The pill is not the pill. It's a symbol of your desire to get better or something. And to me, it's not a symbol of desire to get better. It's a reminder that this damn thing is still there and still got hold of me and won't let go. So it's again, it's an emotional thing that is difficult for other people to understand unless they're experiencing it.
So would you mind telling me, what do you think is the one thing that people just don't talk about enough when it comes to multiple myeloma?
Yeah, I think, to me, that the thing that people are not good at talking about is the emotional impact that well-meaning strangers can have. So if you Google, which is the last thing you should ever do, you Google myeloma, it will come up with a site that says myeloma is incurable and fatal, but can be treated. And that illuminates other people's attitude to you. But when you hear people saying that, because when you're inside it, the order in which those words are presented can have quite a profound impact on the way you hear them. So treatable, yes, once you're inside and you're with other people that are on that journey, and particularly when you're with people that have been on this journey for 20 plus years sometimes, okay, yes, it's incurable, we get that, but it's treatable, which means it keeps us going. And yes, it's cyclic, it is boom and bust, or remitting and relapsing, but you get through those cycles and you can carry on with life, and you can have a fulfilling and valuable life. Chances are it's going to get you in the end, but it's not like it's next week. And that's the thing. So the fatal or terminal bit that people do tend to put quite a lot of weight on is actually, yeah, okay, we know that, we get that, but that's in the future and we're not there yet. As I said earlier, I'm not dead yet, and between now and when I am, I'm going to do some living. Thank you very much. But the way people throw that at you, it can be, oh, yeah, I know that. Oh, and it can really hurt your mood for a few days, because again, it's another reminder of something that you've processed and put into order, and that you accept and don't really think of as being important today. And then it's right in the front again, and you can't look past it for a little while, and it's almost like you have to reprocess that. So I think that just that last, it's fatal or terminal. I think taking that word away, particularly in the clinical environment, to say it's incurable but it's treatable, and that third conclusion is, okay, it's there but it's not today. We'll get to that. Again, something my father used to say when he didn't want to talk about something is, we'll talk about that tomorrow. And that element of it, I think we should talk about when it's actually becoming important, and not right now, not today, not when we're having our first diagnosis or our first rounds of treatment, or even a second, the first relapse. That's not today. That's way ahead. Let's just put it there and live for today. Be more current. Yes, and that. So coming back to the original question, what is it that we don't talk about? Is we don't talk about the effect as patients that attitude has on us. Because it's almost like, if you're challenging it, you're challenging the whole institution behind the really good treatments that we're getting. Because yes, we get that, but you said it wrong, and therefore you are wrong. But you're not wrong. It's just the order and the priorities is not right, and that's something that I do try to help educate people through the support group, through the contacts with the medical professionals, and the patient advocacy groups as well. We like what we're doing today. Let's help people, help us to live our best life by walking in our shoes for a little time, understanding the impact of the way they treat us and the things they say, and being able to make that best, or to deliver the same news in a way which is easier for us to process and to deal with and to live with, because that's the thing. It's living with myeloma, not dying of it.
Thank you, Adrian. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time, but I'm really, really grateful that you agreed to speak to me and shared your story and your insights with me. I really do think that if people listening to this take on board some of the things that you've said, that it's really going to have an impact for other people in the future. So thanks again. Thank you to everybody who's listened, and if you're interested in finding out more about the work that we do, please follow A Life in a Day on LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram. Thank you very much.